apologies for messing with the lunch or like the networking break. I know it's always the best part of conferences is to actually talk with the other attendees, but do not worry. I talk with the organizers and you obviously have a lot more other breaks in the schedule as well. Plenty of time to discuss. Don't worry about that. Hopefully this session is going to bring something to talk about within the next breaks and lunch hour and happy hour as well. So hopefully this is more food for discussion and thought rather than anything else. Hey, I am going to be talking here today about the session is I'll be Backoff, benchmarking AI-powered platform engineering tools. Obviously with a bit of a more SRE focus from the platform engineering side of things, but because this is SREday, I'm very excited to be talking about this topic with you. And I do have some Pump Terminator pictures and memes here as well here and there, so stay tuned for those. Now, let's get started. So I am Annie Talvasto. I am a senior manager for product marketing and community at Upbound, which is the creator of cross-plane projects, so platform engineering, SRE, control plane, Kubernetes tooling. That's what we have built. I'm very excited to be talking here to you about this. So I'm also a CNCF ambassador as well as an Azure MVP. So in general, I just love talking about technology to audiences such as yourself, everywhere and anywhere, as well as sharing and learning and educating about technology in general. Now, I do want to give the disclaimer that I was in Marrakesh yesterday, literally doing in a tech conference there. Yeah, yesterday. And then I was in Atlanta last week for KubeCon. So this is my third continent in a week. So if I seem a bit sleepy, it is because I am, but it's all right. I hope I can keep the energy up for this session time, and then it's going to be great after that as well. I am originally from Finland, but I do live in New York right now. So I'm very excited to talk to you here about these things. So what this session is about, what are we going to be talking about here today? This time, the title of my session, Benchmarking AI-Powered Platform Engineering Tools, is quite clear in my opinion in a lot of ways. So I'll be running through bunch of different tooling that you can, as SREs, as platform engineers, as anyone in technology, use tooling that is AI powered, AI augmented, add something else from the AI tool stack to help you with your work. Now, the session is going to include a lot of tools. So you might leave the session a bit jumbled and there might be too many, but my hope is that you get inspired and you get ideas on what you can actually look at into yourself, what makes sense for you, what's a good way to evaluate some of these tooling, and so forth. So maybe also give you something to talk about in the next coffee break as well, so that you can discuss, did you like that one tool better or so forth. So that's the goal today. Now, I will be putting for this session, obviously, my vendor neutral hat on, because this is a session that I'll be ranking. That's actually the thing. I won't be ranking these tools because obviously the use cases that you are using these tools for vary a lot. So I won't be giving a ranking on what's best, what's worst, or anything. I'll just be going through, this is what they can do, and this is what they're good at, this is what they're not so good at. And obviously with a vendor neutral hat on in terms of, okay, trying to be as neutral as possible. And I do want to obviously give the disclaimer that these tools are all quite new. Well, the whole birth of LLMs, AI hype is relatively new as a whole. And there's been obviously a lot of advantages and advances in this space recently. And honestly, I feel like there's new tools in this space popping up on the daily, on the weekly, at least every month or so. So what this session is, this is a snapshot of this moment, what's available and what's the capabilities of these tools and products. And then obviously next week, one of these might announce something new. There might be a new player or something else coming in. So obviously keep that in mind. But I hope this serves as a snapshot of what's available right now so that you can decide what you want to dive deeper into. So that is essentially what's briefly kind of happening across the space. Okay, there we go. So AI and platform engineering. I am seeing a lot of nodding. People are maybe interested. It's all cool. But also, I think at least coming in from KubeCon, I think people might also have a bit of an AI fatigue in general. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way. We hear AI this constantly everywhere. So that's kind of part of the reason why I made this session, because I feel like we're hearing so much fluff. We're hearing so much AI can do this. It's going to solve all of our problems, blah, 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 blah. But what does it actually do right now? What are these tools actually capable right now? And that's the goal to figure out here today. And obviously, as I said, things are advancing, things are moving. So there will always be a bit of fluff here and there. But at the same time, the goal is to help you actually know what tools are available and which ones to use, rather than just be bombarded with AI cool everywhere constantly. So that's the goal here today. And I will give a resource at the end of it because there was from a previous SREday, and SREday San Francisco had a really nice session on different use cases that SRE specifically can think about using AI for. So everything from alert triaging to request routing to incident similarity to RAG and all of these things. So I really like that session because that's a 30-minute, not a deep dive per se, but a 30-minute look into all of those rather than me running through a bunch of tools here right now. So check out that for the use cases. I'll link it to it towards the end there. And now, then we can hop on to the next slide. And I think with the AI fatigue and everything, I think the number one question that we got to think about ourselves, why does any of this matter? Like, why should we care about this topic? And I think the answer is that we shouldn't very much care, particularly in the infrastructure SRE platform space. I think the tools are still developing. Like they're there, you can use them, you can tap into them, but they are also seeing a lot of advances and likely going to see a lot of advances in the future. So it is a new space. So it's probably not in our everyday toolkit necessarily yet, but we can see how things have gone for the coding, for the development side of things. We had a bit of a period of skepticism with the Cloud Codes, Copilots, all of these tooling. And then nowadays, actually, the numbers are coming in for the recent studies. 90% of people use these tools for coding on a daily basis, essentially. So we have seen that space be pretty much taken over by those because it's a helpful tool. So I think the shift is coming for SRE infrastructure platform engineering as well. So might as well be on the first wave of people looking into these toolings, figuring what works, what doesn't, because there's obviously always a need for the human in the loop. There's always a need for the human to make sure that everything is actually going the way that it should be, to validate, to understand. Let's make sure that we are the people who are actually understanding and making sure that these tools work really well. They work for us. They work for us as practitioners and people using them, rather than we would have a lot of issues if we just let these things go fully rampant or anything. So I think it's better to be informed than not think about it at all. Perfect. So what are the options? What's out there? I'm going to go through like 10, 12-ish products here. So it's going to be a lot. So I've tried to break down a tiny bit on what are the different categories that these tools would fit into. But again, I said the caveat, these tools might move between categories even tomorrow, next week or something, because this is such an emerging field. So there's no kind of, okay, this is a tool that's going to be here forever. I know that some of these tools have roadmaps that kind of span between these categories and everything. But the categories that I have divided here are, so AI SRE, essentially, that's a big one that you can see quite a lot of different tooling pop into. Actually, before we go there, who is using AI every day in their work in general? Okay, everyone's using. Who is using AI in SRE infrastructure work? Okay, less hands. So yes, I think my hypothesis of these tools are not as widely adopted as, let's say, the coding, the ChatGPTs and whatnot yet. Perfect. So AI SRE, so incident intelligence, so tools that reason, triage, investigate, and suggest or coordinate fixes. So that's one of the categories there. Then we have 2, AI platform engineering. So SDLC automation tools, so tools that automate workflows, tickets, build, test, release, scorecards, and developer experience. Then we have infrastructure automation, so IAC and control plane, so AI for infra mutation and enforcement. And then agent runtime, where agents actually run, and the execution substrate for agentic workload. Obviously, as I said, things will probably move between these things. There will be probably new categories. There's a bunch of categories outside of this if you were to involve a lot of other tooling. And again, I don't know all the tools in this space as well. There's so many popping by. So if by the end of the session, you're like, oh, damn it, my favorite didn't get mentioned, come and let me know what it is. So I'll include it to the next version of this session. And of course, I can obviously check into it and look into it as well. So that's the thing here. Let's start diving in. So AI SRE, incident intelligence, very specifically, I think interesting for obviously SREday folks here as well. So let's do that a bit. So in here, some of the tools that I'm going to be cover, it's going to be data.bits, PB, Cleric, Resolve AI, Traversal. So there's a lot of different tools in this space. So let's run through the tools, and then I'm going to show like a comparison table after that and discuss the weaknesses and the strengths compared to each other, and then obviously give you resources in the end. So Datadog bits, which is obviously, comes from Datadog, so it probably works really well within the Datadog universe of things. So it is a fully autonomous telemetry grounded AI SRE built into the Datadog platform specifically that then investigates alerts and generates and tests hypotheses, coordinates incidents, and drafts postmortems. So it is like all of these tools are positioned in this category as positioned as an AI on-call teammate inside the tooling that you're using. So this one for Datadog specifically. And it triggers investigations the moment the monitor fires. So no prompt needed. So you don't have to do that using Datadog telemetry. So metrics, logs, and traces. And it is really good for that. And it has reach alerts and runbooks. It generates multiple root cause hypotheses. It validates and invalidates each using real telemetry as well. And it does incident orchestration as well as postmortems and so forth. So what are then the capabilities versus constraints, essentially? It does autonomous alert investigation. So it starts investigations immediately and just that, as I mentioned. Had incident coordination and post-incident workflows and learning and memory. But so what are the constraints? Because I think that's maybe what we are interested in there as well, that it is only Datadog, only as of right now. So it works there and it depends on the Datadog observability integrations. It is not infrastructure automation, so it does not mutate infrastructure or apply changes directly. So it recommends or drafts steps. And it is incident first. So it's strong for alerting, for triage, coordination, and postmortems, and so forth. And it is also a closed platform. So if you're looking for an open source solution, obviously this is a vendor tool. And then it does not have deployment flexibility too much. So it is no on-prem or air gap story. So there's only in the SaaS model there. So that's Datadog Bits in a short. Then Phoebe, that's a new player. So it's a startup. I want to ask, who has heard about Datadog Bits? Okay, a couple of people. Oh, that's cool. Everyone is already here in Paris, super advanced. That's cool. So Phoebe, who's heard of Phoebe? Okay, a lot less hands because it is a startup that got launched like literally a couple months ago. That is definitely a lot newer. But happy to hear that there's already people are looking into it already. So it is an AI SRE immune system is what they call it, that continuously investigates live production data, predicts emerging issues, runs hypothesis-driven analysis across siloed systems, and generates both reactive and preemptive fixes. So it is for an AI SRE system that operates like an immune system, as I mentioned there, and it has two modes. So it has reactive investigation and proactive prevention. It has deep data grounding, so proprietary models are built in to understand logs there. It has really key capabilities are high accuracy log query generation, high code commit attribution accuracy, and it generates pull requests to remediate detected issues, and it runs natural language search across your production context. Now, what are then the capabilities? The capabilities there, but what are the constraints then? So not, again, as a lot of these tools in this specific category, not an infrastructure orchestration system. So it suggests and generates PRs, but does not operate as a infrastructure as code agent. There's some of the tooling that's going to come later. And it is mainly for SRE and debugging, as some of these tools in this category are in general. And it depends heavily on observability plus code error event pipelines. And it is not incident coordination focused. So it provides root cause, figuring out and fixes, but does not emphasize the stakeholder comms or incident room summaries and so forth. So it's really great for those things, but it has its limitations as well. So I'm going to need to speed through a bit. But so Cleric, who's heard of Cleric? I want to ask it. Oh, there's one person. Cool. So Cleric is a hosted AI SRE that autonomously investigates alerts, forms, and tests hypotheses across your telemetry, infra and code, and delivers explainable, confidence-based root cause analysis operating strictly in a read-only mode with human-approved fixes. So again, some of the differences here, these tools are mostly on that space anyhow. So really great debugging workflows, reasoning engine, as well as those, automated alert investigation, explained reasoning, continuous learning. But the constraints are, for example, that it's entirely focused on alerting and investigation and root cause analysis, for example, and fix guidance, no CI/CD, no testing compliance. And it requires really heavily integrations. So the value depends on your connections to metrics, cloud infra, comms, and code. And it is also software as a service first, so no on-prem option there. And then we have Resolve AI. Who's heard of Resolve AI? Okay, much more. They've done a good job because they are a relatively new startup as well. So you can see the marketing departments of these companies working hard. So Resolve AI is a software as a service as well as some of these toolings that are. It's a multi-agent AI SRE again that plugs into your existing code, infra, and telemetry and autonomously investigates incidents and proposes and sometimes also executes. So a bit of a different to some of the other tooling who do not. And fixes, generates postmortems for complex production systems. So that's how it's positioned now. So it has the great investigations and root cause analysis. It has operations on your tool. So it generates Git PRs and kubectl commands, scripts, ticket updates, and documentation. So a lot of functionality there. It is really good at learning and knowledge. So ingest runbooks, wikis, chats, and prior incidents to capture all of that tribal knowledge, which I think is one of the hardest parts for these AI tooling to figure out, because that's obviously all kind of scattered information here and there and also in our brains as humans. And it talks about having a lot of good security features as well. So there's some constraints as well as with all of these. So again, as in most of the tooling in this space, so it's only SaaS. So if you need it on-prem, not possible right now, then it is incident first. That's all of these tools in this category. And autonomy is bounded. So it is participates on call, but a security copy really in their website, for example, emphasizes limited rights and approvals, which I think it's also good. We don't also want to go too crazy with some of these tooling. Like again, human in the loop is important. And then it is very early to the market, very quick and small moving. Perfect. So Traversal, who's heard of Traversal? No one. Perfect. The first tool that is going to be new to everyone. That's fun. So this one, again, is a production-focused AI SRE copilot that analyzes telemetry, code changes, and dependencies. And I define the enterprise root causes as all of these ones. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that's the case with these tooling. They're all very similar, optimized for high control and security-sensitive environments on the other hand. So it is for incident detection again, and it focuses on the life cycle. So it understands your systems, it's good at triaging and so forth. And then it has postmortems and all of these other tools that I mentioned. But again, it's focused on incidents, alerting and root cause analysis and remediation. So it doesn't have some of the other tooling that I was mentioned about. Again, not a software as a service tool and limited scope outside of incidents. So it's not oriented toward testing, release orchestration, compliance, posture, and everything. For this one, you really need to also figure out what is your cloud and ecosystem, like Kubernetes connections and all of these things, because it might not have the multi-platform depth that you might be looking for sometimes. So AI platform engineering, SDLC automation. So now we get to a bit of a different ones, because all of these are obviously similar because they're grouped together because they are similar. So these are the tools that automate workflows, tickets, build test releases, scorecards, and developer experience. Port, how many? I think Port, probably people have heard about Port. Have you heard about the AI capabilities? They're cool. So it's a internal developer portal, which is plus like a context lake that wires AI agents into your SDLC to automate tickets, incidents, and engineering intelligence on top of your existing tools. So again, very different from the SRE agents when you look at it into deeper there. So it's internal developer portal that helps you there. So what can it do actually today? So it's a platform layer, not an infrastructure engine. So it does not replace your platform or orchestrator. It sits on top of that as the developer control plane / portal. So you can call out to Terraform, Argo, CI/CD, or any of the other ones. It has a lot of agent use cases. So you can treat ticket lifecycle, so generate PRDs and specs, route tickets to humans versus agents and so forth. And it has really good granular road place control on catalog entries and practical helps there. So some of the constraints there is that's heavily integration dependent. So agent quality is gated by depth and freshness of data in the context lake. So connectors, webhooks, some ingestion quality. It's probably maybe more in the IDP space rather than in the AI space, for us, maybe you saw here today, but it is still relatively relevant there. So SREday, who's heard of that? I'm assuming, so many, that's cool. Well, that's perfect. That's good. So SREday is another startup that's popped in. I think they launched their funding and whatnot in August. So as I said, a lot of these are coming in quite new, quite fresh. So it is a software as a service, AI DevOps / SRE assistant. So that automates documentation, testing, CI/CD orchestration, and it's focused on hybrid teams and cross-platform workflows. So it's a broad AI platform for engineering workflow. So it spans documentation, quality, CI/CD pipelines, very high level ambition, let's say. They just came out essentially with their funding. They're a Y Combinator startup as well. So you can have horizontal coverage. So it spans monitoring, building, testing, protecting, and release and documenting. And it has some constraints as well, which is on the security and compliance side and all of these things. I have a couple minutes left, so I gotta really speed up. So Harness AI SRE is next. Who's heard of Harness AI? A couple people. Perfect. So Harness AI is a reliability-focused AI system embedded across the Harness DevOps suite. So again, a bit similarly as the bits and whatnot, a lot of these are specific to their environments and their suites, but really good in other ways there. So infrastructure automation, so IAC and control planes. So here is Pulumi Neo, Upbound, and Azure as examples here. So Pulumi Neo, who's heard of that one? Cool, a bit more hands here and there. So this one is built into Pulumi. So Pulumi EIC that reads your Pulumi EIC cloud state and then proposes and applies infra changes via pull requests, via policy guardrails. It is really helpful if you are in that ecosystem. So it has some limitations that it's very Pulumi centric, it's very GitHub first, and it's code only actions. Now, Upbound, the company that I work for. So Upbound is Kubernetes based. So if you really do need a bit of Kubernetes maturity, who's heard of Upbound and that space? Okay, a couple people. Upbound specifically, again, as I mentioned, created Crossplane, which is control plane tooling that extends the Kubernetes control plane to be able to manage everything other than just the Kubernetes side. So then it provides you tech-native APIs for provisioning and operating infrastructure and designed to support both humans and AI agents. So it's a lot about human in the loop and making sure that you're set up future-proof for agents work in the future with unified state, policy enforcement, and extensible controllers. Bound is mostly for the infrastructure control plane management layer, not on the AI SRE side yet. Then Azure SRE agent, again, it's a Microsoft hosted version. So it's autonomous reliability agent for Azure environments that provides continuous monitoring, alert meditation, and automated incident response actions. Now, with just a couple minutes left, I'm going to speed through. So K-Agent is in the agent runtimes category, where agents actually run an execution. It's an execution substrate for agentic workload. So this is an open source tool. So it's in CNCF Lansat, CNCF Sandbox. It's Kubernetes native framework, as is Upbound as well. So those are for Kubernetes mature organizations for running AI agents inside the cluster. So that gives DevOps and platform engineers a declarative way to build, observe, and operate agentic workloads. Then we get to the fun part, which is all the tables. We're a bit late, but I will obviously share these texts with you in my GitHub, so you can tune in there. Obviously, as in the recording, you're going to take screenshots. So there's a lot of these. I made many of these comparisons. So we can see, okay, primary domain. We can see the AI SRE tools there, AI enhanced IDP, AI for IAC automation. And then we have, what does it actually do? What is it best for? Again, for example, organizations are already on Datadog. So these are some of the considerations that you have to take in place. Another way that you can evaluate these tooling is what's the grounding source. So where is the data coming from? What's the information that you get? And what's the strength of that? So for example, for Azure SRE agent, you obviously is using Azure Monitor as the grounding source. And then it helps you because if you're using Azure Stack, that helps you a lot there. Then we have the autonomy level, because I suspect that this is one of the things that's going to be changing the most. Like this space is going to be moving up and down in terms of high, medium, as well as anything, because I think the companies are probably building a lot of capabilities there. Obviously, always human in the loop, probably, at least as of right now with the tooling that we have. But at the same time, I think probably for a lot of these, the goal is to get to a higher level of autonomy. So that's something space that I think we're going to be watching out for. And specifically, what can it actually autonomously do? And then the last table that I have is strengths and highlights as a kind of high level here. So for example, for Harness AI, the strength is change intelligence inside CI/CD, but again, it requires Harness Stack. So these are some of the things that you have to consider. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, I cannot rank these. I cannot make a pick for you. You have to choose yourself. You have to figure out what are your needs, what are your actual requirements, that what you need to from your tooling. And then you can maybe look at this table or dive deeper into the tooling as well to figure out more there. So as a recap, these are the major 4 categories that are covered. So AI SRE, AI platform engineering, and infrastructure automation, and agent runtimes. Now, resources, because that's always fun. So intelligent control plane, if you're interested on. So we wrote an Upbound, like a 30-page document on where do we see platform engineering with the space of AI? Where is it all going specifically and all of these things? So it's 30 pages, highly technical, highly recommend that as a deep dive to figure out where the world is going next. And obviously, as I call it out there, pick what makes sense for you out of the tooling that I presented here today. That AI and SRE embracing the ultimate frontier of automation is the session that I mentioned at the beginning with the great use cases for AI in SRE space specifically. And then there's other great SREday sessions that you can tune into about the same topic. And now with 3 minutes over time, thank you all. I'll be sharing the slides in my GitHub, but you can just any Talvasto GitHub to actually dive deeper into the tables, because obviously 20 minutes or so session, we don't have time to look at every single sheet there. Perfect. Thank you so much.